name's Julie, and I'll be your social worker today. Thanks for coming in. Before we get started, I just want to let you know that everything that's said between the two of us today is going to be kept completely confidential between the two of us, unless you do express feelings of wanting to hurt yourself or others. I will need to report that just for safety measures, but other than that, this will be a conversation that is between the two of us and nobody else will know about it. So I hope that gives you some comfort moving forward and makes you feel a little bit better about opening up to me. So now that I got that out of the way, I want to hear about what brings you in today and what you kind of want to come out of this with. Like, what are your goals? And if you wouldn't mind, I would love to take a couple of notes as you're talking, if that's okay with you.
That's all right.
Okay, thank you.
So I've recently started a sobriety journey. I found out that some of the jobs that I'm interested in pursuing require like a comprehensive background check and a drug test. And if I were to take them right now, I'd fail. And so I've decided that I'm gonna start living sober, which is kind of a lot for me because I am like a daily user. And it's gonna be like kind of a big shift in my like habits, but also like who I think I am. Like, I think a lot of my identity since I started using in high school has been like a pot user, and so that's something that I'm trying to come to terms with, like who I am now without it. And so I was like maybe like 14 days, 2 weeks clean, and then I relapsed and used, and I didn't necessarily feel bad about it in the moment because I kind of made the conscious decision, but before I did, I was like really conflicted because I felt like either way, using or not using, I was going to kind of feel uncomfortable because I was like, well, I'm going to feel guilty using, but at the same time, like if I don't, I'm just going to like continue to want to use. And I think it's kind of especially difficult for me because the people that I live with are daily users, and like the smell lingers in the house, and it kind of like the feeling of wanting to use like rises in me. And I didn't think that I was like an addict because I could go days without using, but making the conscious decision that I wasn't going to use again, and like deciding like this is the last day that I'm using, I'm not going to use anymore, like, and having that like constriction on me has kind of like been a bit of a weight.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. It takes a lot to, I think, come to the realization that you have a habit with a substance. I'm not sure if I would call it an addiction, and that's not really my area of expertise, so it would be hard for me to classify it as that. But I think the fact that you've come to the conclusion that it is something that has been bothersome to you, is what it sounds like. Is that correct? That it's been a bothersome, that you are doing this, using a substance, and you have to stop for a job. Do you think that if there wouldn't be for a job, is that your only motivation to kind of stop right now, or are there other things that that make you want to stop using as well?
I think originally it was the job, and then realizing as I had stopped using that I was like having these urges to use. I think that kind of became motivation for me because I don't like that something like is kind of holding me back or like making me feel a certain way, like it has like control over my emotions kind of, and that was something that I didn't realize because I was using, and so I didn't like feel that feeling. And if I did, it was like, oh well, like I can use it if I want to, but like having that feeling and knowing I can't, I think that's something that I don't like because I think it has like some type of control over me.
Right.
And I don't like that feeling, like that like sudden like it like is probably like my least favorite feeling out of the day, just like feeling that rise in my chest that's like I kind of want to smoke right now, and that's like something that I don't like because I can feel it controlling me.
Right, and that's a great realization to come to. I can see that you've thought about this a lot, and it's not something that someone else is pushing on you, which I think is a great thing. It's kind of something that you found within yourself, and that's a great first step towards sobriety. And so moving forward, I think that you will do better at this because you have more than one motivation wanting to make you stop. So you said that you relapsed after 14 days. So what were you feeling, you know, right before you used and maybe right after? Like you said that you felt guilty. Was that what you said? Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
So I had been drinking a little bit, and I, now in hindsight, know I definitely have a problem with marijuana use, but I would say I don't with alcohol, and I know that lots of people that have substance problems kind of lie to themselves, but I really wasn't a user at all of alcohol. Like it would be like once every month, and it wouldn't be a lot either, like maybe like 1 or 2 beers. And so I had like a little bit of booze in my system, and I was like feeling a little bit like, and there were other people around me that were using, and so I was with a lot of people, and I don't think it was like a peer pressure thing so much, because I absolutely could have said no, and there are other people that were there that weren't smoking, but like it was offered to me, and I had that like really strong feeling in me, and I was with my partner, and he was like, well, you can use or you cannot use, and I'll support you either way, but you have to make the decision because it's gonna like bother you. And I think that that's like true, but also like coming to that decision, like I was like, okay, I'm gonna smoke then, and I did. And afterwards I did feel like a little bit guilty, just because like it kind of feels like when you decide to stop chewing your nails and you're like 3 weeks in and you're like great, and you chew your nail and now you have like you're back at like 0.1, which I don't like, because I know that like I worked hard to not use for 2 weeks, and that was like difficult, but still in that moment I felt like I like was back to square one.
I understand. I feel like it's okay to feel that guilt, but I want you to also realize that you did make it 14 days without using, which is a huge accomplishment. It's a huge stepping stone in the right direction. Quitting a substance is something that's hard to do. I mean, that's, I'm not gonna like say that it's not, because it is. I haven't gone through that, so I can't sympathize with that, but you know, I know that addiction is something that's hard to get out of. So the fact that you made it those 14 days shows that you have the ability to stop doing this thing. And it's okay to have a setback every now and then, because everybody has setbacks. So I don't want you to feel like you should let that guilt take you any further back than it has, because I know that sometimes it might be hard when you're feeling those emotions to let them kind of take control of you and push you back in the opposite direction, which I think that you were going in a great direction, and it's okay to have those types of feelings. You mentioned that you were with you know, your roommates and your friends, and I know that you had said earlier that it's hard sometimes because your roommates use, and it's kind of hard to be around them a little bit. Have you ever maybe tried to communicate these feelings with the people that you live with and tell them that you are on this path to, you know, sobriety, and maybe, I mean, obviously if they don't want to quit, that's not your place, but maybe have you asked them to try to maybe respect you a little bit more, or is that something that you're feeling? I don't know if you could maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so my boyfriend who I live with uses, but he is pretty respectful of it, and so he'll use in ways that doesn't like leave a smell in the house, which is kind of one of those things that gets me the most, just because being a user, like I love the smell, and it like really gets me to want to use. And so like he will use outside of the house or use it in ways that doesn't leave a smell, whereas like my roommate that lives like across the hall will smoke in his room, and I like smell it coming out of his room, and I really don't like that. And before like I stopped smoking, I tried to tell him to not even smoke in the house, just because I think like the lingering smell can sometimes like kind of smell stale and like leave the house smelling gross. And so even when I smoked, I used to go outside, partly because like I liked being outside when I smoked. I just like the environment better, and it made me not feel like I was like a cooped up lazy stoner. But I don't know, I haven't articulated it to him since I stopped, and I'm considering doing it, but I also feel like he's gonna be mad at me because he is like in the place that I was in as like a really heavy user. And so I understand why he'd be upset with that, but also like it does make my position and what I'm doing kind of difficult. And he's articulated too that he thinks he might need to stop in the future for jobs, and so like, I don't know, like, I understand, but also it bothers me.
Right. Do you think that moving forward, it would help you in this situation to maybe have a conversation with him about this? Because I heard you say that he is also thinking about quitting, and maybe if you express these feelings to him, he might be open to slowing down a little bit. That might help you and help himself in that same way. And I know that sometimes it's easier for someone to stop using if they have somebody else doing it with them, kind of like a partner, or like someone to keep each other accountable. And I'm not saying that he is going to be that person, but I mean, maybe having this conversation with him could be the first step in a good direction towards you having less stimulus of that reminder, because I know that smell is a very strong reminder of events, and so constantly smelling that, I know that that can't be easy to come home and you smell this constant reminder of the thing that you're trying to quit. So is that something that maybe we could work on in future sessions, is maybe coming up with a way to confront the other users that you're around to see if they could be a little bit more respectful of what you would like to achieve in your life?
Yeah, I definitely like that. I think that could be a help for me. And like, I don't think that the smell is like the worst thing, because I think like being around it and not using it is like strengthening me in some way, because it's like getting me to like it's that exposure. Like I know some people can't be around the drugs that they are addicted to anymore, and like some people say that like it makes them stronger in their decision, and I think it kind of goes both ways for me. But I mean, I am glad that I have a partner where if I was like to try to say like, can I hit that, he'd be like, no, I know what you're trying to do.
Right.
Like
That's great.
you're on a mission.
You have
So,
someone
like,
to
don't.
do that with. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that you have someone who is supportive of the decisions that you are making, even though he may not be making those like the same choices right now. But it's good to know that you have someone who loves and supports you, so that you don't feel alone during this process. But I would love to recommend you to a couple groups maybe that you could go and kind of talk about this with other people that are maybe going through the same things that you're going through. If you'd be open to, you know, maybe going to like a meeting once a week to talk about these things. Sometimes it's nice to hear other people's experiences and see what works for them, because it can help you in your road to recovery, and you can talk to other people who might be going through the same thing. If that's something that you'd be open to, we can talk about some of those options and go from there.
Yeah, I think that'd be really helpful.
Okay, awesome. I hope that this was a helpful session and that we talked about the things that you wanted to talk about. It was really nice getting to know you a little bit better and getting to talk to you. And I hope that you'll want to come back and meet with me another time so we can further this journey towards your sobriety.
Thank you so much.
No problem.